Good evening, beautiful beings. It is your Majesty Janelle here, popping on live YouTube. Welcome in. And before you forget, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe now and let's begin. So, today is Sunday, and as someone who is a Floridian and Florida grown, as I like to say, I was called, I was divinely called to the Springs. So I don't know if any of you guys are from Florida. If you are, let me know down below. But here in Florida, the Sunshine State, we have many beaches, but not only beaches, we are known for our magnificent, magical, beautiful, exotic, orgasmic, just amazing springs. Like amazing is just like an understatement, honestly. Um but if you click the link up above and you follow me on my other platforms, Facebook and Instagram, you'll see the beautiful, eloquent, heavenly, celestial pictures and pristine, beautiful, glorious waters, and the waterfalls I was able to capture while I was there. And it was pretty remarkable because the springs have been calling my name for a while. The last time I actually went to the springs is when I was with my late husband Yeshua, who is now on the other side of the heavenly realms. Um, that was the last time we had gone kayaking, and it was such an adventure, and I loved it. But anyways, today I was called. I had been called for a while, because a lot of you guys that follow me are very intuitive. You guys have a lot of special abilities, and I feel like that's why we connect and resonate so deeply. And so I was called to the Rainbow Springs. So all around Central Florida, we have many springs: Wiki Wachee Springs, Rogers Park, Seven Sisters Springs, Citrus Springs, Homosassa Springs. There's like so many, but I was specifically called to the Rainbow Springs or Rainbow River. And these springs, I'm telling you, are literally like heaven on earth. Like they're just beautiful. But not only is it just springs, right, that you can swim, right? Springs, but you can also kayak, paddleboard, um, you could ride out boats. And so I went into the swimming area. I swam for a bit. It was pretty cold. It was like taking a cold plunge for a moment. And that was an experience. And I went all by myself. I drove over an hour away to my destination. It was very fun, adventurous. Like I'm an adrenaline junkie. So like I love all things like trying different things and adventure and experiences and sensations, and like that is just what makes me feel alive, is just getting out of my mind, because I'm very analytical, and getting back into my body, whether that's through dance, through breathing, through traveling, right? Traveling into different dimensions and different spaces, right? Because I look at the world, let's say very diversely, very differently. And so me traveling to the springs, I was going into a different dimension, a different portal. And so when I went to the Rainbow Springs, which was over an hour away travel, which was worth it. It really was. Um, it really, wow, like when spirit, the goddess, supernatural, like that divine energy, the energy that is just wanting the best for me, that energy tells me to do something, I have to do it. Even like jumping on this YouTube, right? Like I'm not wearing my makeup, like I'm about to go to bed here soon, but Source told me I need to come on here and I need to transmit this information. And so I'm doing what Source is telling me to do. Okay. And so that has been a really big part of my journey, is doing those things that are hard, right? Showing up when it's hard. And I'm still working on certain behaviors because your girl here has a lot of things going on energetically, spiritually, and so I always, one thing about Your Majesty is I always make it a point to always learn, right? Learn what to do, what not to do, how to do something better, and how to just be a better version of myself. And realizing that every version of me, past, present, and future, all served its purpose. Even if in that moment it didn't seem like really this is happening, like why, blah, blah, blah. I always have to pull the curtain back and look at the situation and realize, you know what? My husband dying, Yeshua dying, yes, it was traumatic and devastating, and I went down a dark rabbit hole, but you know what? I grounded back into reality and I realized, you know what? It happened for a divine reason, a divine purpose. Just like, other traumatic events that happened that I won't get into in this video, but I look back and I look from the present me, right? The present Janelle, Your Majesty. And I'm like, you know what? Even back then, I was, even though I cried throughout both my pregnancies and it was devastating and abandonment and rejection and all of this, but I look at it now and I'm like, wow, even though back then it was so painful, so traumatic, I would never want anyone to go through that pain, even other things. But I look at it now and I'm like, wow, that experience actually molded me into who I am today. And if I had not gone through those experiences, I wouldn't have the appreciation, the grit, the wisdom, the experience that I have now today. And so that's what I really try to cultivate and remember, this energy, this activating energy, regardless whether you call good, bad, right, wrong, light, dark, right? These different energies, and it's going back to pointing back to the rainbow, right? Because sometimes it's not always just light and dark, right? Positive and negative, right? There's also neutrality and polarity, but most importantly, the rainbow, and the rainbow has a very significant symbolism. In my world, the rainbow means new beginnings. It means new experiences. It means expansion. It means learning through every level of circumstance, through every level of consciousness, through every color, right? And every color gives a sensation, gives a vibration, as I like to call heavenly vibrations, right? And so it brings me back to the experience of listening to Sacred Spirit go to Rainbow Springs. And I had been wanting to go, but I don't want to go by myself, blah, 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 making excuses. But today was the day. I made sure I got my rest last night. I woke up pretty early and I took a little road trip and I drove in my car and I got there and I was there by myself. And yeah, I saw mostly everyone had someone with them. I was like the only one by myself. But you know what? It was okay. I was able to video message my beautiful daughters and they got to see it. And when they come back to Florida, they will be able to experience the beautiful Rainbow Springs. And not only that, I did not even know that Rainbow Springs has waterfalls. I didn't know that Florida had waterfalls. I know. As a Floridian, how did you not know that? Well, because I know that we're known as the sunshine bipolar state, as I like to call Florida, because one moment it could be sunny as day, and the next moment it could be raining thunderstorm, cats and dogs. But yeah, and so after I went swimming, that was the first thing that I went. The first thing that I did is I went to the gift shop. I went and I scouted out and I looked and I'm like, okay, what am I gonna do? I see people on the blanket, sunbathing, on the benches, and then I see families with their children jumping in the water. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna put my stuff down. I'm going to jump in the water and swim. And so that's what I did. I swam and I swam for a little bit, and the water was pretty cold. It was probably like in the 60s. It was pretty cold. And I did that for a little bit, and then after I swam, I got out of the water, and then I realized that there was more to the park. There were trails. And any one of you guys that follow me on my other platforms know that I am a nature freak. Like, me and nature, we are one. Like, I love nature. Like, it brings me back to my motherland, my mother tongue, just who I am. I am nature. And that has been a big pivotal part of my awakening, part of my transformation, is that I am nature, that I am one with nature. And so I went down these trails, and they were the waterfall trails. And every section of the trail had a different waterfall. And even though the waterfalls were different, they were all unique, all important, all valuable. This waterfall was taller, right? It made a lot more noise, right? More water. But this one was smaller, and the sound was more delicate, right? And I just remember just taking in all of my sensory, right, all around me, and I saw beautiful flowers and bees, and I found some clovers. I found a giant 3-leaf clover. And yes, I know, traditionally 4-leaf clovers are meant to be more lucky, but I actually got a download of inspiration that actually the 3-leaf clover is actually just as, if not even more luckier than the 4-leaf clover, especially the 3-leaf giant clover, which I have captured on my other platforms. I actually put it in my hair. Source told me, put it in your hair, decorate yourself with the flowers. It was so pretty. I loved it. And I kept it. I grabbed a bunch of little goodies from the experience. Like, here's like some flowers that I got. I had put it in my hair, and there was, yeah. Oh yeah, and this was a pine cone that I got the other day. I love like collecting little nature things, and it's fun. It's just fun for me, I love it, and I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful, and I'm grateful for you guys who are on this journey with me, guys. And I really appreciate you because I cannot do this without your support. And I want you to know that you are an important part of my story and part of my transformation. And I just want to let you guys know that I really appreciate you. I appreciate the subscriptions, the likes, the comments, the shares, all of it. I just want to say thank you so much because I can't do it without you. So back to the story of the rainbow, right? The spring. So instead of going to Seven Sisters or Rogers or all the other different springs that Florida has in general, all around Florida, there's so many springs. There's still a lot more springs that are on my bucket list. But Rainbow Springs stood out very personally, and the symbolism of the rainbow, and how, like, and even in the Bible, the rainbow did represent a new timeline, a new beginning, right? And so I love that about the rainbow, a new timeline, a new beginning, a new consciousness, and that life doesn't have to be dull. It doesn't have to just be black and white. It can be colorful. It can be rainbow and just beautiful. And so as I was going through the trails and taking pictures and just really just honoring all of Mother Earth's beauty and nature, I remember there were actually and it said it on the architecture that these were architectural buildings, so there was one area where it was like all brick and it was a circle, right? It was a circle. And I remember when I looked at the circle, right? I looked at it, I literally immediately flashed, like I had this intense deja vu. Like it was intense. Like that was like the first one. I had multiple throughout the trails, like through different sections of the trails. I would get a different vision or a different download. And so that one was a very, very powerful, because it was like the sacred spirit was saying, beloved, you have done this. You are here. You are activating. And what I've realized is when I travel to different sites, specifically historical and nature, now put those two together, history and nature, two in one. Oh my gosh, it's just like, woo, like a big cosmic orgasm, okay? And it was just like, I remembered the beginning and the end, the alpha and the omega, right? It was like so powerful. And like that section, I actually took pictures of it, which you can see if you click the link in the bio and follow me on my other socials. You'll see the pictures that I posted. But that historical circle, what it reminded me of is the circle of life and how life is eternal, right? And how not only life, right? Not only life, but love. And as a widow who lost my spouse, Yeshua, who died, who's on the other side of heaven, we still connect spiritually, but not, in the physical material matter. But it was a remembrance that just as life never ends, the seasons keep on going and going and going and going, and the work is never done. Yes, we have moments of breaks, we have moments of rest, right? But ultimately, we live eternally. We are eternal beings, beloved. And so that circle just was just an activation, and it was just a remembrance. And so I keep going, and I go to these beautiful flowers, and then I see beautiful birds, and I see these beautiful bees, and like it was just so tranquil, so exotic, and even erotic to a sense, because there was a point in my journey of the trails where I had gone to another section and I got another intense, I don't even know what to call it, like a transcendental state of consciousness. And it was like, I was literally in the garden of Adam and Eve, like as it depicts in in Genesis, right? In the beginning, and in the book of Genesis. And it was literally like you could take it metaphorically or figuratively speaking, but literally, like, my body activated and it remembered, right? It remembered, like, being in the garden. And we all know the tale of, Adam and Eve, and, that, or however you interpret it. And please let me know how you interpret that story, because I have a lot of different interpretations. And that's how I feel like time, God, Christ, Source, Sacred Spirit, is showing me that time is really still being discovered. And yes, it's, we have the time on our watch, it's 10:46 EST, right now. But is that really the real time? And what I'm getting is that that's not really the real, that's like human time, yes. But our divine timing is completely different. It's non-linear. It's really hard to explain. Like, and if you're a scientist or a quantum physicist, and you're very experienced with this and you study these types of things, or a philosopher, please let me know your thoughts of these experiences that are very vividly and vibrantly real in my life. Because I'm telling you, what I had experienced was words can't describe. Like, if I could just speak in energy, like, which I do, but I know because we're humans, we're in this meat sack, we have to use language to communicate. But we know that body language and nonverbal communication is very powerful as well. And so I keep going along in my journey, and I see these beautiful yellow butterflies and black and white butterflies and pure white butterflies. And then I go to another section where it's all white, beautiful flowers. And another thing that pops up into my mind, that section where the circle was, that actually used to be a zoo a long, long time ago at this Rainbow Spring. And, I looked into, and it was like a caged area. I'm like, I wonder if there's any animals in here. And thank the goddess there was no animals, because, like, man, that made me feel sad. Like, animals being, like, back in the day, animals locked in that little section. Like, what kind of life is that? Like, imagine, like, we are human animals. Like, we are meant to be free, and already our mind can, if we allow it, can put limitations, and just, seeing the old historical zoo that was there, and thank goddess there was no, like, animals in there, like, that was, it was just showing a historical thing that it had used to be. But to me, that was a reflection of how consciousness and how people are really waking up to who they really are. And it's fascinating and it's amazing. And it really lights my heart, because as someone who feels very deeply, I know what it's like to go through periods in your life where things are hard, right? Things are hard in life. And to be able to pull yourself out of that. And not only just me, your majesty, pulling myself out, but allowing the God and the goddess and all things that are holy to help me and to remember that there is something greater than myself. And even if that thing that's greater than that myself is living within me, it's still something. It's this divine energy that is working with me to better my life. Not just my life, right? It's not just about me. It's about the domino effect that it has on humanity and consciousness in general. And so I'm very passionate about these topics because as someone who grew up believing in certain belief systems that were lies, that really, pushed me into destructive behaviors, learning that I can unlearn those things and I can relearn new things, and that through science and neuroscience and quantum physics and all these different studies and modalities and the healing arts, and even Jesus's teachings, like Yeshua, like I love Yeshua. He is one of my favorites. And so, anyways, it was just a very supernatural experience. And then another part of the trail, I had another intense vision, or it was like a transcendental state of consciousness. But it was this energy. It was like, I've been here. I've done this. I've seen this. Something is repeating. There is a pattern, but it wasn't an unhealthy pattern. It was a very, how do I explain it? It was a very freeing, a very liberating pattern that my soul was breaking into. And it honestly felt like transcendence. I believe that was what I was feeling. Transcendence. And so, anyways, guys, it was powerful. And so this is your reminder. No matter what you are going through in your life, whether you're walking through the depths of hell or the dark night of the soul, or you're at crossroads in your life and, you're trying to find a decision, always remember that all the answers lie within you, that you are a powerful creator being. And that even through our mistakes, and even though, yes, sometimes we might not choose the best choices, but even through not choosing the best choices, eventually get us to our destination. Because if I never experienced deep betrayal, how would I be able to truly forgive? And so, beloved, I encourage you today, whether you like to sing, dance, write, journal, right, or anything, like something that lights up your soul. I want you to get out of your box, right? Get out of the regular day-to-day patterns. And I want you to do something special for yourself, right? For yourself, for your family. And I want you to do something that you don't normally do. And I want you to really be in the experience. I want you to feel the senses, right? All of the senses, your visual perception, your hearing perception, your smells, your taste, your touch, and your extrasensory perceptions, ESP, which that is what I was experiencing today. That I was back in the Garden of Adam and Eve. In the garden. Oops. Okay.